Hi, yeah, it's Jackie here from the LGFA, and we're on a Zoom call today, and I think we're going to have a bit of fun with this one. We have two former inter-county stars. They're laughing already. On the top left-hand side of my screen is Caoimhe Morgan from Armagh, and on the bottom of my screen is Michelle Ryan, ex-Waterford, of course, and two recent club winners as well, two teachers, and coincidentally both had 19 years at inter-county level, so a lot in common and a lot to chat about. Caoimhe, how are you? I'll go to you first. Congrats on the Armada title. You don't have much time to rest on your laurels. You're back out next weekend in the Ulster Club.
Yeah, back out, training 3 times a week. So it's kind of felt like I retired, but then didn't retire. But yeah, look, it was great to be able to give that wee bit back to the club and really, really commit to it when I didn't have the county commitment anymore. And yeah, just delighted to win the intermediate and back out on Sunday.
Absolutely, wish you well. Michelle, 39 in a row for Ballymac. You love hearing all about that, don't you? Is it sinking in now, Michelle, a couple of days on from that success?
Yeah, it is. Well, for us, the players, it definitely is. And, it's only after the game that, people obviously in the build-up would make a lot of it, but it's only after the game that we actually would even say those words ourselves. So, and funnily enough, straight away after the game, then you have people talking about 40, which to us is not even on the radar at the minute. So look, I think we're thankfully in the club, we're very, very grounded, and the players around us are very grounded, the management are, and whatever everyone else makes of it is up to them, and we can only control what we make of it. But as I said, we only really, I suppose, fully embraced it once the final whistle went on Sunday, and we're still very much just in that mindset now. We're not thinking anything beyond just the next few weeks, not to mind next year.
Yeah, absolutely, and there's plenty more football to come. You're hoping before 2020 is over. Caoimhe, the two of you played against each other on a number of occasions, like Inter-Pro and County. So I'll let you do the start off the mutual appreciation show here. What was Michelle like as an opponent, Caoimhe?
Well, I always said I would have needed a ladder to try and mark Michelle. Quality player. You always had to try and change your game plan to adapt to see how you could mark such class. I tried, but we'd lovely times together too. Great girl, and yeah, I tried to mark her, I would say, rather than anything else.
What do you think of that, Michelle?
Oh, well, I absolutely refute that, because to be honest, anytime we knew we were coming up against one of the northern teams, it was just a whole different mindset we had to enter into, because the level of physicality that he would have brought to the game was incredible, more so than any other province, to be honest. And Caoimhe's the type of person now, you don't take the ball into a tackle with Caoimhe. You know what I mean? So you know that you lay it off and you go again, and you try and keep moving as much as you possibly can, because and it's such a tenacious defender, excellent defender, and her presence alone beside you, it keeps you on your toes. And as I said, we always would have been, had to have the mindset of, we're going into an actual battle against the team now when we're going up there.
Caoimhe, you made your debut in 1999, so correct me on any of this, right? 3 Ulster senior titles, 3 National Leagues, and a Junior All-Ireland and an All-Star in 2006. So that was a nice haul. Is there anything that stands out above anything else in all of that?
2006 was probably the dream year, after winning the junior in 2005, and there was no intermediate then, so we went straight to senior. It was all just so surreal when you look back on it now, how lucky we were, and the drama that went with it, that Galway was at a point, wasn't at a point thing. And then obviously we were beaten in 2006, but then I got the lucky call of doing the international rules, and that was class, and it just seemed like that year was a dream year for any ladies Gaelic footballer.
Yeah, it was a cracking year. Michelle, your list of honours, it's as long as my arm, and All-Ireland winner as well. You did say once, there was a statement when you did retire from Inter-County, that 2015, that it's right up there with anything that you've done. Does that remain the case, even though club success has come and stayed coming ever since?
I think at the end of the day, when you have time to reflect on it, everybody in their sports wants to be playing at the top level they possibly can, and there's nothing for us in the era that I was playing in. I suppose, especially when I started out, the senior All-Ireland wasn't the attainable dream at the start, because we were very much in decline at the time. So getting to play an All-Ireland final, having lost 2 before now, because losing 2 finals is the biggest learning curve you'll ever come across. So having lost 2, and maybe after the 2012 one, thinking, is this even going to happen? having won that in 2015. And again, look, you're winning an All-Ireland in Croke Park with the players that you've been soldiered on with so long, but then just going back up to that senior status really meant an awful lot. It wasn't just the winning of the match, it was the senior status and regaining that. And to be honest, Jackie, what I always say very quickly after mentioning 2015 as my highlight is that the championship season of 2017 comes very, very close to that, because it was a season where we actually were equipping ourselves and we beat Cork and Kerry in the Munster Championship.
That's right.
And I think they were the two games that I was genuinely full of emotion on the pitch afterwards, because it had been so long since being in a Waterford jersey, having beaten a Cork and Kerry team, and to be in a Munster final. And we were very close to winning that Munster final. I mean, that I always follow up the 2015 season with the 2017, but we wouldn't have gotten to the 2017 if it hadn't been for 2015.
Yeah, absolutely. And Caoimhe, you obviously reflect on 2006 as well, but then a few years later and after that, along came the James Daly era, I like to call it, and you were regularly at that top table and up and around the knockout stages of the All-Ireland Championship and contesting semi-finals as well. So that was another nice era for Armagh as well.
Yeah, it was a good one. James brought back a whole ethos of commitment and working really, really hard. And he had a bunch of girls there together that all wanted to drive and go the same way. And, as Michelle said there, though, we had a couple of hard defeats as well. We kept going through seasons where we were getting beat by a point or a couple of points, and it was really, really difficult to, get yourself up for those kind of things. But James brought a good ethos, and, it's drove us on even to where we are now. And there's still a lot of people on the panel that will be part of James's era.
Yeah, absolutely. Michelle, can I ask you about the decision to retire? Because obviously, and I'm going to come to you with this one as well, Caoimhe, so be prepared. The decision.
We're ready for it.
The decision to retire, Michelle. How much thought went in? Because I know from knowing you over the last number of years that it was something you thought about, for a few years, but why was it now the time to pull the curtain down?
It had entered my mind a few years at the end of seasons. I think maybe going into the 2019 season, I had seriously considered it, and I don't know, I just felt that maybe there was still more that we could achieve in 2019. I physically felt that I wasn't doing too bad, would say, fitness-wise and injury-wise, and there was still that hunger to achieve that a little bit more. I knew Division 2 in the league was pretty attainable and realistic for us to achieve, and the fantastic bunch of players that we had around us. Now, having said that, there were times during the 2019 year when, mental strength and mental toughness is more important even than the physical work and all the training that you do. And there was just times during the 2019 year that I just knew in my head, God, this is tougher than it has been before.
Okay.
And that I don't think I could do another year of this. Now, I was never a doubt in 2019, but I was going to finish out the year, and I was happy to be there and delighted to be there. But I was already thinking, you know what? I don't know if I could do this again next year.
What was it, Michelle? Was it mental? Was it the work-life balance? Was it taking a little bit longer to recover, or was it a multitude of factors?
It was a few of those things. It was the work, I suppose, the life balance and the training balance and all of that was tough at times. But to be honest, you'd be fairly used to that. I did find the length of time it was taking to recover from things and picking up these annoying little niggly injuries, and and normally after a physio treatment or two, they're gone and you're back. But these things just don't go away as quick as they used to at times. And I suppose the morning of the Galway quarter-final, I was feeling absolutely fantastic, and we went and warmed up in a place just down the road. That it was that day of that absolutely torrential rain, and we warmed up in fairly dry weather down the road, and I was just leaving the dressing room to go out, and I literally just went to jump up a step to go up onto the pitch where we were doing our warm-up, and I tweaked my back, and I get back spasms every now and again, maybe once or twice a year, but I just remember being not now, this is not happening right now. And I had a conversation, I did power through the warm-up, I had a conversation with my physio, and I knew I was in a little bit of trouble, and I just remember being, how much longer can I do this? You know what I mean? I don't want to be a player, because I love the game so much, to be sitting out these important days through injury, or to sitting out or maybe getting a serious injury that might rule you out someday. So I think as the 2019 year was progressing, I kind of knew, and I was happy in my mind that I think this is it. But again, I didn't make that decision until around Christmas.
Okay, and Caoimhe, you were smiling there and nodding in agreement. You can relate to a lot of what Michelle is talking about there. What was your experience of it then, Caoimhe?
Well, I had thought about retiring for quite a wee while because I have two children now, and one's 7, one's 4, and they were kind of getting into things after school and all that. And football takes some, as Michelle says, a massive commitment, and it's not just you're training your 3 nights a week. It's all the recovery, and there's so much more professionalism with it now. You have to be well prepared, your diet and everything. And I was just struggling with all of that. And I'm sure Michelle feels the same. You don't want to go out and be a bit player. You want to go out and be the best that you can be, and you want to compete with the top people, even on your own squad. And I was finding that was getting harder, and I was getting a wee bit frustrated. So I had kind of decided I was going to leave probably before the 2018 season, but then I had done my cruciate, and everybody was saying to me, you really should stick at it and, use the time that, you'd be going to training to rehab and all that kind of thing. So I thought, right, okay, I'll give it another go. And got myself back to playing for the 2019 season. And on the whole, I'm delighted I did do that because, we got to beat Cork, we got to play with the 3 sisters, and there's loads of great out of that. But it's really, as Michelle says there, it's the commitment that it takes now. It's a lot harder. And then as you get older, I used to laugh at all the ones that used to be on the physio bed years ago, and I was never near it. And now I'm like, I could sit on it 24/7 now, it's just so much sore on your body. It's difficult. But, I'm glad we spoke on a Zoom during lockdown. Michelle and I were saying that, lockdown is actually good for us. The COVID thing for retired Gaelic players wasn't bad. That was the only positive, because, everyone was kind of going into a bit of a semi-retirement with you, and you had to think of new things to do. So, I wouldn't have loved running, but I thought I'll try a bit of running and do a few online kind of HIIT classes and that kind of thing. So I got into a bit of a routine of doing that. So I feel like now it mightn't be as bad, when everybody goes back, because we've all had a wee break, and I could just continue on with that break now.
Yeah, it's a strange one because I've spoken to players and you can do all the Zoom sessions and 5K runs and all of those HIIT sessions and out in your back garden and all that kind of stuff. But Michelle, I'm sure you'll find that, or you'll verify that when you get back into the cut and thrust of competitive fare, that there is no comparison. You might think you're at a level, but bang, you're back into it and you realise, yeah, okay, I need to do a little bit more perhaps in terms of conditioning.
Absolutely, and to totally echo what Caoimhe said. I mean, the amount of times I've said even quietly to myself, thank God I made a decision when I did, considering how the year has kind of worked out.
Imagine, Michelle, we could still be going for another 3 because of COVID.
All through winter, Caoimhe.
Michelle, it's funny you mentioned that, because I was going to ask you the question, do you have any regrets now that you did step back because of the fact that obviously the league was called off for a while? You would have had a break. You would have had your club, and then you would have had the fitness from the club going in possibly to an inter-county season. Or, as you say, the fact that it has been the year that it's been, has that reinforced your decision?
100% Jackie has reinforced my decision.
Okay.
Because I think if I was to have gone back at the start of this year, it probably realistically would have been just for another year, to be honest.
Okay.
And I think I really admire the current county girls and men, to be honest, and how they're pushing this year down, because I obviously know a lot of them very closely. My own brother is an inter-county there. I mean, it's a tough time to put down. Where, as Caoimhe said, when we kind of retired, it was tough going to the 1 or 2 league matches at the start and being like, God, I don't know, whatever, thinking about it. But then it all stopped, and it stopped for everybody. So, like she said, everyone kind of semi-retired at the same time. I never got to feel like I was missing out on anything. And then that time to go back to the club, absolutely thoroughly enjoyed it. I think the lockdown and the way things have transpired this year have given us that little bit of extra time and distance from it, in the sense that we're not missing out on it, but we have gotten a bit of distance from it, so that we've kind of maybe accepted that little bit easier and that little bit more. And if I'm honest, the thought now of going to play an inter-county season in the winter for me would just be, it's a tough one. And I admire the girls who are doing it, and I think, it just goes to show the level of hunger and commitment that is there. But it kind of reinforces for me that I would have found that particularly tough, I think. I love that I've just gotten to settle back into the club, into an environment that I'm very familiar with and very happy with and enjoyed it. And I mean, I know we're into Munster club season now, but come, we'll say, hopefully the end of October, then, back to wintering and not worrying about, whether I'm training or, as she said, hydrating, looking after myself as well as everybody else is, on top of, trying to maintain life in the times that we're in as well, and jobs and all of that. So
Yeah.
no, it definitely has reinforced it for me.
Yeah, because you're both teachers as well, Caoimhe, something else you have in common, obviously. So what was life during lockdown, as we'll call it? I hate that word. And what's the new normal like since you've gone back to school, Caoimhe? How have you managed all that, and how have the kids managed it as well?
Well, during lockdown, we did an awful lot of online learning and all. I'm sure Michelle know all about that. It was very difficult. It's difficult to engage with the students, and like I teach PE, so you're trying to get them out, get them active, and it's good for their mental health as well. Going back now, like I'm personally glad to be back into a routine, and the children need it. And our school has put in like lots of measures, obviously, to keep everybody safe. And you can see the kids are delighted to be back. They're smiling again, and they need it. There's no substitute for actually being in school, and you can see that they're flourishing again, and they're happy to be with their friends. And yes, there's a lot to be done. We have to catch up a bit on things, but I think personally I'm glad we're back at school.
Okay, and yourself, Michelle?
So delighted to be back, to be honest. Like Caoimhe, we would have done the online classes and online teaching right up until the end of the school year, and while it was great to be able to do that, and for to maintain some kind of contact with them, it isn't the same. It isn't the same for them, and it isn't the same for us. And delighted to be back at school now. There's a whole lot of new measures and we've a lot of changes made inside in our school, which I suppose is taking a little bit of time to get used to. But in fairness to the students in our school, they've been fantastic and they've adapted really well. I think it's more difficult for us being set in our ways than it is for them. But look, it's great to be back, and we're as we said, we're hoping to stay there. And again, like, sports is I think everyone really appreciated when sports came back. And I think having that as a PE teacher, and like I'm involved in ladies football in the school, while we haven't started back in it yet, we're looking forward to a time when we can just get them out and get them active and get them in the air and enjoying things in school as well. But I suppose for the first few weeks, it's definitely about kind of the well-being of the students and settling everyone back and hoping everyone feels safe and well and happy to be there.
Absolutely. Caoimhe, and I know we've chatted about this previously, but take us back to when you first got the call to link up with Armagh, because there's a nice story there as well.
I was in my house on a Saturday night, and Armagh couldn't get a team at this stage. So there was a guy called Brian Meehan from Lissummon, my club, and he was chairman of Armagh at that time. And he had ran round houses trying to find people to go on the bus. And Mummy said to him, look, my dad was working and he would have no car to get me there. And he says, we'll drive down to the end of the road and get her. So I drove down, I got on the bus, knew nobody, sat at the front of the bus, didn't speak at all. We stopped on the road up. We were going to play a relegation match against Sligo, and we stopped at a hotel on the way. And of course, I had no money with me, so they'd been asking everybody what they wanted to eat and all. And I was like, "Oh my God, do I have to pay for this here because I have no money?" And then realised I didn't have to pay, and I thought, "This is great. I can get on board with this. Yeah, the country's where I want to be." So we got the soup and the sandwiches and whatever, and went on to play the match. And we won the match. Thank God I didn't start. Some girl had Michelle Meehan broke her finger, and I got on. And then on the road down on the bus, there was a girl called Maura McArdle. She would be like a stalwart of Armagh back then. And she was questioning me on my pedigree and who I was and who was my father and everything about me the whole way down the road on the bus. So that was my start of inter-county Armagh football, yeah.
And the rest is history, as they say. And Michelle, what was your first experience? I don't think I've ever chatted to you about that, or maybe you've mentioned along the way because we've chatted so much over the last few years. But how did it all begin for you with Waterford?
See, this is probably one of the regrets I have, is that those times were a little bit of a blur back then. You see, I would have been involved in the under-14 Waterford team that won in All Ireland, and then we were playing under-16. And when we came to the under 16 age, we were part of the minor panel. So the minor panel was under the management of the senior managers, which was Dad and a few others, and they would have trained together. So you were actually, when you were part of the minor panel, you were actually part of the senior panel. So you were drafted in among the subs. So it was kind of just a drafting in without, I suppose you're really taking stock of what you were becoming part of. And so for the first year, 2001, it was very much, on the subs bench and happy to be there, and nearly kind of, I suppose, terrified at the thought of coming onto the pitch with all these players that you've been watching for so long since you could walk, and you knew that they were top class and they were Ulster winners, and you were quite happy to be sitting there on the bench now and didn't want to come on and do anything too drastic to have too much of an impact on the game or do anything wrong. But I suppose after that, then we won a league title in 2000 and in 2002 up in Clare, and that's probably one of my first standout memories was being drug tested after that league final, and I was number 29 or 30 on the panel, and I mean I just remember this woman appearing beside me after the league final saying, "You've been selected for random drug testing," and I mean, I suppose it's just. My memory of it is very much being part of the underage setup and part of the subs bench and kind of the substitutes for the first 2 or 3 years while I was there. But being honoured to be there and enjoying absolutely every minute of it. And it wasn't for maybe another year or two till I actually broke onto the team in a kind of a permanent fixture. But look, I suppose back then it was a whole different era of players that were there, and they were incredibly talented. As I said, they were all-star winners, and you were so young. I suppose confidence would have been maybe a bit of an issue back then as well, and you were kind of looking around going, do I deserve to be here, or what am I going to do if they give me the ball or whatever. But gradually with a little bit of experience, a little bit of time, those kind of things pass, and here we are 19 years later.
Yeah, absolutely. Caoimhe, how long did it take you then to after that start and the manner of it, to feel really part of the setup and that sense of belonging, and I'm a good player and I'm good enough to be in this setup and good enough to start on this team? How long did that process take for you, that bedding in period, do you think? How long did that take?
Honestly, Jackie, it probably took a long time, because after that season was over and we didn't get relegated the next season, my dad took over. And that was an experience in itself. So he would have been straight talking and to the point and all, and probably, yes, did make me the player I am or was. But, I wouldn't have started. I'd have stayed on the bench, come on at half time. You would have did that for a good 2-3 years. It wasn't until maybe Daddy had left and then new management had come in that I kind of felt, I remember looking around and saying, same as Michelle, you had Bruno O'Donnell, you had Alma O'Donnell, you had, Sharon Duncan, with big players, Patricia McAvoy, and same as Michelle said, you were kind of like, oh God, they're the big players, I do probably remember, let's say maybe about 6-7 years into it, and I would have said, what, I'm established here, I'm getting on. I'd started to be more vocal and talk a lot more, and I thought, what, this is my team, and I need to take responsibility here and become more of a leader. But it took a long time, because
6-7 years, that's a while.
Players that were there, and and Armagh had been in such a bad place for such a long time, and you felt honoured that you were there, but you felt you had a sense of responsibility to the people that had dragged Armagh through when times were bad, and you didn't want to let anybody down. As Michelle said, you didn't want to do anything wrong, so. At times you were happy to be on the bench and maybe come on as a bit of an impact, or but it took a long time, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and that parental influence is another obviously element that you have in common as well, ladies. I mean, Michael, and it would be remiss of us not to chat about him, Michelle, and the influence he's had not just on your life, but on Ballymac and on Waterford football as well. And that photo we always go back to of yourself and himself after the league final, just an incredible shot. So what did it mean to him again last weekend to win yet another county title? I mean, it means an awful lot to you. I think that was your 22nd. But for your dad, it's a lot more than that, isn't it?
I know, and I suppose, as I said, we kind of try and keep our feet grounded and things like that. But what's remarkable about him is that the hunger is always there. And I mean that sincerely. The hunger is really always there. The drive and the passion is never lets up in him. And I suppose having new opposition in the county final meant that we were going to be on our toes anyway. But I mean, if you were to listen to his team talks, even the week leading up to it, you'd think we were going for our first or second title. And that feeds into us, it really does feed into us, and it keeps, he as Caoimhe said, when your dad is in the management team, there's no fear, but you'll be kept grounded anyway, so, and in fairness, he would treat all the other players the same, he would hate the thought that anyone would think that they were entitled to something or that something was taken for granted. because he'd often say that if a team aren't going to beat you because they're better than you, then maybe they're probably going to beat you because you've taken them for granted. And that's within your own control. So you control the controllables, and you can control how you approach match. And that's always been his mantra, I suppose. Control what you can control. And if you're focused, and I suppose his focus, his drive, his passion comes across in what he says, and you have no choice but to heed it and to go with it, and it feeds into us as players as well.
Absolutely. Okay, but what was the best thing about playing for Armagh?
I suppose for me, seeing the progression. So, I was there when it was bad, there when it was really, really good. And, I've seen it progress. So I feel blessed to have been there when, I've seen it when it wasn't so good. And I think that drove me on and kept the hunger going, and the respect for the jersey and all that kind of thing. Personally, the best thing about playing for Armagh for me is the camaraderie of the girls. I would say that's the thing I'm going to miss the most. I know it's hard to drag yourself to training sometimes, especially on the dark evenings and whatever, but when you would get there and I'm listening to my sisters, and they're saying, the girls that they're talking to and all, and I'm saying, oh God, I miss the girls, I really do. You miss them, like you miss the conversation. They played such a massive part of your life. Like I'd probably seen the girls more than I'd seen my husband. It's just the way it was, so I'll miss that a lot, yeah. But I'll go to the matches and all that kind of thing, but it'll not be the same. But yeah, that's what I'll miss most about it, yeah.
On yourself, Michelle, what was the best thing about it?
I think, well, personally, I would totally agree with Caoimhe. I think nearly every player would say the same. Like the people you meet and the friends you make along the way they're irreplaceable. They've been through everything with you, and they're the people you end up socializing with, because they're the people that are definitely free at the same time you're free, and and they're not free when you're not free. So you end up spending time with each other no matter what. So, but as well as that, I think what I really get huge satisfaction out, especially around Dungarvan, around County Waterford, is seeing the amount of girls that are playing football, and you see them in Waterford Lady football jerseys or tops or shorts or whatever it is, and it really has grown. And I think that came a lot from, at the time we weren't happy to be relegated down to intermediate, and a lot of people thought it was the worst thing in the world, and but it gave us a chance to rebuild, and I suppose to improve and to become successful, and it encouraged a lot more young girls to be playing as well, and that is the case around the county now. There are a lot of young girls, and I love, if you see someone in shorts or in Waterford Lady football shorts or a top, and you ask them, who are you playing for, were you at a match, how'd you get on? I just love doing that, and love seeing that, that they're involved in it in some way, shape or form.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. And Caoimhe, how did you manage then? As you say, you have two kids, and that's busy in its own right. How did you manage to keep all the balls juggled in the air then when you became a mum as well, and trying to hold down that inter-county career and work and everything involved in such a busy life?
Well, I had a very supportive family. My husband is very good. When I started to go out with Cole, I was playing football, so it was always the thing where I always trained at the same times, and he was used to that. So when the kids came along, you still need time for yourself. It's really important that I think that you have something for you always. So the training was just a normal part of my life. So it was just something that I went to, and we made things fit around it. I might have been picking the kids up late at night sometimes, or it was jammies on, and there you go to somebody else or whatever. But it's always been part of my life. So I made it fit in, and as I say, I talk to Caroline and Hannah a lot about this. If you want things to work, you'll make it work. And because it's enjoyable, it will work, and it just did. And now my kids are playing football, and I'm going through a different stage where I'm helping to coach and watching all that. And at the start, Cahill would be a wee bit girly, you see, and people would be saying, "Oh my God, is she your daughter really?" And I says, "Yeah, no, just it'll come." So she's getting a wee bit more interested in it now, and it's lovely. It's a different side of it, but you can make anything work if you want it to work, yeah.
And having your sisters there as well, that was a huge thing.
Yeah, that was class. I was the one that's, started off on my own, and then Sarah came on board the panel, and we spent a lot of time together, the two of us, and then Neve and Catherine, because she's the youngest, and she always would have said to me, look, I want to play with you. And I says, look, I don't know if that's going to be possible, because my old bones aren't going to hold out much longer. But, I suppose that was another reason why I stayed on for a while as well. And, see that Cork match, to have the four of us on together, and that was amazing. It was a little bit of memory that I'll cherish forever. It's probably one of the best. I know you win lots of things along the way, but to share it with three of your sisters, your family, it's something else. You know, it really was special.
Absolutely brilliant. And Michelle, you had Sinead and Louise as well, and you can live a vicarious inter-county life as well with Shane playing hurling as well. I mean, how did you manage? I forget, you know, never mind work and other aspects of life, but just not having football for those few months and sport and being the sports mad family that you are. And I know I asked your dad this recently on the interview, but how did you manage what did you talk about at the dinner table? I know Liverpool were going for the league, which was obviously a topic of conversation, or wouldn't they get their hands on the Premier League, but what would you know, football is such a massive part of your lives, obviously. How did you get through?
Yeah, if I'm honest, I don't think we spent as much time together in a very, very long time. So, because there's always someone gone after a match, or gone training, or gone here, or gone there. It's just the nature of it. But what was really lovely about it is that we did spend a lot of time together. Whether we were hill walking every odd weekend, which was actually lovely. Obviously there was still a bit of sports chat going on, and yes, there was a little bit of Liverpool chat going on as well, Jackie. But it was great. It really was. We'd be a very close family anyway, but I suppose it was nice to be able to just relax in each other's company as well. And you know, you didn't have to overanalyze matches and get someone's goat up, or get someone's in a really bad form. You know, I suppose some of us would be kinder than others when it comes to analysing matches and performances. So there's some of us would be, we're very different personalities, myself, my sisters and my brother, when it comes to our approaches to trainings and matches and things like that. Myself and Shane would be quite similar in the sense that, you know, it really governs our lives, and we spend a lot of time thinking and talking about it. And my sisters Sinead and Louise, while they absolutely adore it and they're very passionate about it and plays, you know, they wouldn't let it get to them maybe as much, or they wouldn't let it take over their thoughts or their emotions as much. And I suppose actually a funny story I just thought of it there in the 2012 season. Louise and Sinead, for example, in the middle of the season would have left to go traveling in America in the middle of the year, whereas me and Shane would never do that in a month of months. And you know, but they when they're in it, they give it everything. I mean, they're fantastic players for the club as well. They both captained the club to county titles in the last number of years. But it was lovely to actually have I suppose, to connect in a different sense, and not in a different environment as well, and doing different activities. And I know all our other relatives have definitely said you've never spent as much time together as we have in the last 6 months. So it's been great.
Yeah, lovely. Sinead, Caoimhe, what's the next chapter? What lies in store? Obviously, you're still with the club and you have a match on Sunday, but you know, beyond that, what are the hopes and dreams and aspirations? Obviously, watching the kids grow up and hopefully being the best they can be.
Probably coaching with the kids. I've also been helping Paul McGrain out with the under-14 Ballyhagan team.
Brilliant.
They won the championship on Sunday, so it's great to be working with people like that, you know, that know an awful lot about football and a different dynamic, and see what, you know, kind of men's football, the way they approach the thing with managing ladies. I'd say coaching, like I'll help out, you know, if Armagh need any help or whatever, you know, or you know, any ladies football team need help or whatever, I'd always be willing to help out. I think you have to give back, and as Michelle said, you know, it's great that, you know, she would meet people and things and be asking them, you know, young girls, you know, where are you playing, what you doing, show a bit of an interest. You know, in school, I find that's really important, you know, to know where the kids are playing, who they're playing for, and be able to strike a conversation with them about it. Yeah, like football will always be in my life. Like, it's massive, you know, it is your life, you know, and you realise, Michelle said, like, see the friends that you make all over the country, you know, and the fact that you can talk to so many people, or, you know, if you're going somewhere, you're always saying, what pitch is it close to, or, you know, football is my life, and thank God my family, you know, we're all into the sport, and it's something we have in common. And you know, I'll always, you know, want to be part of the LGFA and give back. And yeah, I can't see myself ever, well, being a PE teacher and all, you want to promote all of it, so I can't see myself ever quitting. And I love watching sport, and you know, I love the ethos that it instills in children, and I think it's really important. It's important to win and important to know how to lose, and you know, it fosters hard work in people, and also it'll always play a big part in my life, and I'm sure I'll be doing something to do with sport. Yeah.
Long may that continue. Ladies, I could chat to you all day. I really could, honest to God. But I'm on a time limit here, and I'm sure you've better things to be doing with your time than talking to me. So, listen. I had mine earlier on. I said I'd get ahead of the game today. Caoimhe Morgan from Armagh, great catching up, and we'll talk to you again real soon. And we'll see you on the other side of all of this madness that we're living through at the moment. And Michelle, we'll see you real soon as well. Ladies, stay safe and stay well, and thanks for coming on today. Really appreciate it.
You too. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Jackie.